A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So fantastic to see all of you here in the room together, all of us like-minded individuals gathered in one room. Good morning, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm, warm welcome to our inaugural Recharge Wind Power Summit Asia Pacific, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg. We're so delighted to welcome you to this very important gathering of leaders like yourself, policymakers, industry experts, and partners from all around the world across the wind, power, and energy sectors. This event, of course, brought to you together by Recharge in collaboration with WindEnergy Hamburg. Now, through this summit, we hope to bring together industry stakeholders to explore the opportunities, challenges, and innovations that are shaping the future of wind energy across the region and beyond. Now, over the next couple of days, we hope to look across policy frameworks, financing strategies, technological breakthroughs, and system integration, all while taking a deep dive into Asia's role, the critical role that Asia has in driving global energy transition. This morning, we're so very honored to have our guests of honor here with us, distinguished ambassadors, government representatives, industry leaders, as well as our valued partners. So ladies and gentlemen, with a warm, warm round of applause, could you please join me as we welcome our guests of honor for this morning, His Excellency Dr. Tan See Ling, Minister in charge of Energy, Science and Technology in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Singapore. Good morning. Also seated right here at the front, we have Her Excellency Dr. Bettina Feng Hanel, Ambassador, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to Singapore. Good morning. His Excellency Mr. Leif Trana, Ambassador, Royal Norwegian Embassy, Singapore. Thank you for being with us today. Ms. Suan Tan, Head of the IEA Regional Cooperation Center, International Energy Agency. Mr. Lee Chuan Teck, Chairman, Enterprise Singapore. Mr. Wong Zheng Yi, Assistant Managing Director, Enterprise Singapore. As well as Mr. Simon Quick, President, Association of Singapore Marine and Offshore Energy Industries. Good morning to each and every one of you. And thank you again for being here at our inaugural event. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here to kick things off for a very exciting summit, please put your hands together as we welcome Mr. Pranjal Bokotoki, who is the Senior Director, Global Events, Recharge DN Media Group, for his welcome remarks. Mr. Bokotoki, please.
Good morning, Minister Dr. Tan, Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers and delegates, industry leaders, and our partners. It gives me great pleasure to welcoming you all today to the Recharge Wind Power Summit Asia Pacific, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg here in Singapore. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces alongside the new partners. Thank you all very much for coming together today. This summit began with a vision. It was a cold February morning in Hamburg. Some of us from Recharge and WindEnergy Hamburg sat down to discuss wind and its potential. And we realized something vital, that Asia needed a premium platform for the industry. And soon we realized that we were coming to Singapore. Bringing an event of this scale to life requires visionary partnership. And we approached Enterprise Singapore because they are globally recognized for their progressive, forward-thinking approach to the industry's growth. Enterprise Singapore didn't just guide us, they actively mobilized vital resources and galvanized region's industries. This summit simply couldn't have been possible without Enterprise Singapore believing in our mission. Thank you very much. We are equally grateful to Singapore Tourism Board and ASME. Both the agencies stepped up generously to champion this journey. The Singapore Tourism Board has been instrumental in positioning this summit as a world-class gathering. Meanwhile, ASME's deep industry roots and technical expertise have been invaluable in bridging the maritime, offshore, and the wind energy sector. Our theme for the conference is From Ambition to Reality, Why Asia is Wind's Next Big Opportunity, which resonates perfectly with Singapore. As a global maritime and financial powerhouse, Singapore is the ideal anchor to transform Asia's massive wind energy potential into tangible reality. It serves as the strategic testbeds, engineering hub, and the investment gateway that our industry needs to scale up across the Asia Pacific. For us as organizers, as both for Recharge and WindEnergy Hamburg, this summit is far more than just a business opportunity. We are deeply committed to this collective journey towards clean energy. We believe wholeheartedly the wind energy's incredibly bright future. This event is our long-term pledge to stand by the industry, driving partnerships and innovations that will power tomorrow. That said, I also would like to say thank you to all our sponsors to this conference, as well as to all the exhibitors at the exhibition floor. I wish you all a highly productive, collaborative, and inspiring 2 days ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bokotoki, for your welcome remarks. And up next, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we invite Mr. Heiko Stutzinger, CEO of Hamburg Messe und Kongress, for his welcome remarks. Mr. Stutzinger, please.
Thank you so much. Dear Minister Dr. Tan, dear Ambassador Dr. Van Hennel, dear Mrs. Tan, dear Pranjal, ladies and gentlemen. Singapore's legendary first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, once said, "I believe that life is a process of continuous change and a constant struggle to make that change one for the better." Change for the better. A compelling motive in times like these, not least for us as trade fair organizers. With this in mind, we celebrate a very special premiere today. The Recharge Wind Power Summit 2026 Asia Pacific, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg, is the first event of its kind for the sector in Singapore. And at the same time, it marks an important milestone for us at Hamburg Messe and Kongress, and also for me personally as well. For the first time, we are addressing the highly important subject of renewable energy here in Asia. And we are doing so with political backing. Hamburg's first mayor, Dr. Peter Tschentscher, visited Singapore in autumn 2024. And this was followed last year in November by us signing a memorandum of understanding witnessed by the Singapore ambassador to Germany. And the objective was to expand a joint trade fair activities focused on wind energy that brings us here today. And similar to Hamburg's role in Europe, Singapore is a strategic hub for the Asia-Pacific region, which is one of the most dynamic driving forces powering the growth of global on- and offshore wind energy. The fact that both the government of Singapore and the International Energy Agency are so prominently represented here today attests to the significance of this event. Let me take this opportunity, also as Pranjal already did it, but also from our side, to express my sincere gratitude to Enterprise Singapore, the Singapore Tourism Board, our sponsors and exhibitors for their vigorous support. Without your support and your energy, events like this would not be possible. When working together with you, our partner, Recharge, has enabled us to organize this top-flight industry event. The expertise of Recharge as a leading news publication for this market and the know-how of WindEnergy Hamburg as the world's leading wind industry fair worked hand in hand to make this event a reality. You must have application, you must be prepared to work hard, you must be prepared to get people to work with you. Is another formula of success by Lee Kuan Yew. You see, we are quite inspired by Lee Kuan Yew. It is a matter of fact that no country can tackle the challenges of transforming energy systems alone. Regional cooperation builds resilience, and the accelerated expansion of the ASEAN power grid to enable cross-border energy flows is an excellent example here. Cooperation and knowledge transfer across international borders and continents and between the realm of business, politics, and science, that is what a format such as the Recharge Wind Power Summit 2026 Asia Pacific is all about. There's one thing I can promise you today. After the successful premiere of this event, we will definitely be back for another exhibition here in wonderful Singapore next year. Yes, thank you. Machula Singapura, true words of Singapore's national anthem. I wish you all 2 successful exhibition and conference days, and I also would be delighted to welcome many of you in Hamburg in September this year for both our world-leading exhibition in the maritime industry, as well as, of course, WindEnergy Hamburg. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stutzing. I look forward to next year already. What an exciting way to start our morning. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, it's now my pleasure to be inviting our guest of honor up on stage, His Excellency Dr. Tan See Leng, Minister in charge of Energy, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Dr. Tan, please, for his keynote address.
Mr. Heiko Stutzinger, CEO of Hamburg Messe, Pranjal Bokotoki, Senior Director of DN Media, Excellencies, Ambassadors and Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with you, to welcome you to Singapore for the Recharge Wind Power Summit 2026 Asia Pacific. Today, ladies and gentlemen, marks the Singapore's inaugural WindEnergy Summit, and this is the first time that WindEnergy Hamburg, which is the world's leading wind energy industry event, has ventured beyond and outside of Europe. Recharge and HMC chose to bring this summit to Singapore. We are here at the heart of the Asia Pacific, and it's not by accident, because it reflects the industry's growing global ambition and the recognition that this region will lead the next chapter of the energy transition. And Singapore is indeed proud to partner Recharge and HMC to host a series of wind energy events until 2029, and I hope beyond that as well. Now, we look forward to building a lasting platform for ideas, for partnerships and decisions that will shape the future of this industry. Now, to appreciate the significance of this summit, let us step back and review where we stand today. In 2025, global new wind energy capacity grew by 40% from the year before, reaching the highest level ever recorded. This brought total installed wind power capacity to nearly 1,300 gigawatts, enough to power over 1 billion households. Now, in the span of 40 years, wind energy has grown from a niche experimental technology into a major source of renewable energy. That journey began with the oil shocks of the 1970s, when the world was forced to confront the fragility of its energy foundations. These shocks sparked serious investments in the alternative energy sources, including in wind. Now, the lessons learned from that era were clear. Energy security cannot rest on a single source, on a single supplier, or for that matter, on a single region. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, we stand at another inflection point. Geopolitical tensions and ongoing conflicts in the Middle East continue to strain global energy supply chains. The cost of dependence on fossil fuels has never been more visible. And the urgency of securing renewable, diversified, and resilient energy sources has never been greater. Now, against this backdrop, Asia will set the stage for what comes next. Growth is expected to remain strong, with global capacity projected to grow at a 5.2% CAGR over the next 5 years. And Asia will account for 60% or more of new onshore installations. The question before us, therefore, is not simply whether the wind energy sector will grow, because indeed it will. The real question is whether it will grow at the pace and the scale that the energy transition demands. And all of us collectively here, what must we do to make that happen? Now, all of you have been here, you know how small our country is. We are an alternate energy disadvantaged country. We lack land, we lack hydro, and I was joking with earlier on with the CEO and chairman. I said that we lack the wind that countries can draw upon, but we stand at the crossroads and sometimes crosswinds. Yet, for us all here, we are no less resolute, and we have not waited to act. We have accelerated solar deployment, we've invested in emerging low-carbon technologies, and we are making steady progress. We've electrified, we are moving forward with rapid speed to electrify our vehicle fleet, all in pursuit of a new low-carbon future. Singapore's contribution to the global energy transition extends way beyond our shores. While we do not have significant wind energy resources, we can still play a meaningful role in the wind energy sector, especially in offshore wind energy. Now, we will do so across 3 areas: capabilities, innovation, and collaboration. Now, on capabilities, the first area that I was talking about, how do we strengthen capabilities? Singapore's marine and offshore energy companies have spent decades in some of the most demanding operating environments in the world. Drawing on the expertise forged in the oil and gas industry, they are now well positioned to support the growing needs of the offshore wind energy sector. And Singapore companies are already making their mark on projects around the world. They build vessels that lift and install massive turbines at sea. They connect projects to the grid, and they support inspection and maintenance operations in deep waters. Seatrim, for example, has drawn on its marine and offshore engineering competencies to build offshore substations and wind turbine installation vessels, and it is on track to contribute over 16 gigawatts of offshore substation capacity across Europe, the US, and the Asia Pacific. Furthermore, Marco Polo Marine has developed a state-of-the-art vessel that is currently being deployed in Asia to support the construction of offshore wind farms. Ladies and gentlemen, these companies showcase a mature and a capable ecosystem in Singapore, and is punching way above its weight in the global wind energy sector. We are committed to strengthening these capabilities further. Which leads me to my first announcement for the day. I'm pleased to announce today the launch of the refreshed Marine and Offshore Energy Industry Digital Plan, which is developed by Enterprise Singapore and IMDA. This refreshed plan will support companies in adopting digital and AI solutions to improve productivity across all facets of their business operations. Such solutions will help speed up product design, optimize operations, and enhance asset monitoring, thus empowering our companies to compete better for global projects. And as the wind energy sector grows in complexity and scale, our companies must be equipped to lead and seize those new opportunities. Now, we welcome companies with innovative solutions to come together, help shape the future of this industry together. The second area, ladies and gentlemen, is on enabling innovation. Now, to scale offshore wind energy effectively, we need faster innovation cycles. We are strengthening industry and academia linkages to co-develop tools and technologies that will transform this sector. The president of the National University of Singapore, Professor Tan Eng Chai, is here, seated, and I'm sure he'll be glad to know that we are going to continue to support and hope that we can facilitate even more academic linkages together. Which brings me to my second announcement. I'm happy to share that Singapore's Technology Centre for Offshore and Marine, or TCOMS, and the NUS AI Institute, they are launching a new initiative together called Catalyst. Catalyst, supported by Enterprise Singapore, will develop AI models tailored for the marine and offshore energy sector to accelerate testing and design cycles for vessels and floating offshore structures, and this will enable and facilitate predictive maintenance. At the design stage, the industry can use AI-enabled virtual test environments to shorten design cycles and reduce testing costs, allowing companies, especially SMEs, to de-risk within a sandbox environment before committing to heavy capital investment. Now, when it comes to operations and maintenance, operators of marine and offshore assets can tap on an AI-enabled digital twin platform to draw actionable insights from operational data, achieve predictive maintenance, and reduce downtime. The third area is collaboration. I believe that no single country, no single institution or company can drive energy transition alone. So Singapore is actively partnering other countries to advance offshore wind energy technologies, which brings me to my third announcement. I'm pleased to share that TCOMS and Japan's Floating Offshore Wind Technology Research Association will be signing an MOU to advance floating offshore wind technologies. This is an emerging technology that holds enormous promise for a region where shallow water sites for fixed offshore wind turbines are limited. Japan has built deep expertise in this area through years of sustained research and pilot projects. And Singapore, through TCOMS, brings expertise in the marine and offshore engineering and systems integration to the partnership. So together, we are well positioned to strengthen the development of floating offshore wind energy. Singapore is also contributing to the global standards that will underpin the future of wind energy. Enterprise Singapore has convened a joint working group comprising experts involved in the IEC TC88, which is a key technical committee on wind energy generation systems. The group contributes to the development of standards in turbine design, site assessment, power quality, and simulation technologies. And collaboration also means upholding open and resilient global energy supply chains. Now, as the global environment grows even more complex, Singapore remains committed to supporting the free flow of energy and goods, and to ensuring supply chains continue to run smoothly during this period of uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy challenges before us are real, and they are pressing, they are urgent. But this also means that huge opportunities abound, and they exist here today. Two forces are reshaping the energy transition today. On the one hand, we have a growing sense of urgency as geopolitical tensions and supply disruptions expose the fragility of our energy systems and our dependence on fossil fuels. But on the other hand, there's a huge growing possibility as advances in renewable energy and technology open the door to a greener, to a more resilient future. So this is why collective action across borders, across industries, between public and private sectors is more important than ever. Singapore is committed to playing our part. We look forward to contributing meaningfully to the global wind energy industry, You've heard for yourself, Mr. Suetzinger has committed that next year's event will come back here. Today, the combined focus, your discussions, your strategies, your partnerships, your networks that you built today will snowball to an even bigger event next year and beyond, all the way to 2029, and of course, hopefully, well into the 2030s. So I invite all of you to partner Singapore on this journey, shaping the future of wind energy, and I look forward to seeing more of you in future editions of this summit. Thank you very much and have a great event.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. A very inspiring keynote address and certainly exciting announcements of the initiatives as well. Plenty of opportunities, as he mentioned, and collaborative efforts that lie ahead of all of us in the room today. Next, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you could put your hands together as we welcome Her Excellency, Dr. Bettina Fang-Hanel, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Singapore for her keynote address. Dr. Fang-Hanel, please.
Dr. Tan See-Leung, Minister in charge of Energy and Science and Technology at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to join you today at the opening of the first Recharge Wind Power Summit Asia Pacific here in Singapore. To start with, I would like to express my appreciation to the organizers from Hamburg and their partners for bringing this important platform to Singapore. And I think this is particularly fitting, because for centuries Hamburg has been one of Europe's great maritime and trading hubs, deeply connected to global trade and logistics, and until this day playing an important role in offshore wind industry and the broader clean energy transition. So in many ways, Hamburg and Singapore share similar characteristics. Both are globally connected port cities whose success has always depended on their openness, connectivity, their strong financial sectors, and their international exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, long before globalization, for many centuries, what connected Europe and the Asia Pacific was the winds. Wind-powered ships enabled trade and shaped coastal economies. In northern Germany, windmills became part of the economic landscape centuries ago, harnessing the power of wind long before the age of electricity. Today, Germany's coastlines are home to some of Europe's largest offshore wind farms. And once again, wind is reshaping economies, infrastructure, and international cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the current situation in the Middle East, the disruptions to global supply chains, volatility in energy prices, and growing strategic competition have reinforced one lesson: energy infrastructure is not merely an economic issue. More than ever, it has become a strategic issue that impacts our resilience, our competitiveness, and our long-term economic security. Climate change is already affecting societies across Southeast Asia through rising temperatures and rising sea levels. Singapore, and ministers, thank you for setting it out very clearly, is at the forefront of driving the transition towards a low-carbon economy and industry in this region. In this context, offshore wind has evolved far beyond a niche renewable technology. Its story is about industrial transformation and future technology. Germany's experience in the wind sector reflects this evolution. When Germany established its first offshore wind farm in the North Sea in 2010, with a total capacity of 60 megawatts, many still viewed this as a highly ambitious experiment. 16 years later, Germany now operates close to 1,800 offshore wind turbines with nearly 10 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity in the North and Baltic Seas. Offshore wind's contribution to Germany's power production reached 5.2% last year. And if you count in the almost 30,000 onshore turbines, wind energy in Germany contributes today almost 30% to our overall power generation. And this makes wind energy the single largest source of energy for power generation in Germany. Ladies and gentlemen, with offshore wind energy, the North and Baltic Seas are evolving into some of Europe's greatest power plants, supported by cross-border grids, by specialized vessels, and by interconnected energy markets. It has become a strong practical example of European collaboration. And I believe this journey may also offer useful perspectives for Southeast Asia and the broader APEC region. For instance, the ASEAN Power Grid project, which has gained new momentum recently, will require cross-border regulatory standards and both regional and international know-how to reach its full potential. German companies, many of them present today, play an important role across this ecosystem, supporting offshore and onshore wind development worldwide with excellent engineering and industrial technology. Ladies and gentlemen, as the use of wind power expands, the challenge shifts from building capacity to managing complexity. And this is, I believe, where international cooperation becomes indispensable. For Germany, cooperation with Singapore is particularly valuable because we both recognized early on that the transformation of energy systems would not be an isolated development. It would reshape industries, supply chains, infrastructure, and patterns of international cooperation. This understanding is reflected in the Framework for Sustainability and Innovation, launched by Germany and Singapore already in 2022. And it is reflected even more strongly in the Germany-Singapore Strategic Partnership, concluded in 2024. Both frameworks demonstrate a shared commitment not only to sustainability, but also to innovation, industrial transformation, connectivity, and international cooperation based on trust. The Germany-Singapore Year of Innovation, which the foreign ministers launched here in Singapore in February, builds on precisely this foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, for open and globally connected economies like Germany and Singapore, resilient connectivity is not an abstract concept. It is a strategic necessity. And in an increasingly fragmented global environment, trusted partnerships become even more valuable. The transformation currently underway in the global energy sector is not only about generating cleaner electricity. It is about shaping the next industrial era. Germany stands ready to contribute with its experience, its technologies, its companies, and its commitment to open markets and reliable partnerships. We regard Singapore as an indispensable partner in this effort. Therefore, I believe Recharge Wind Power Summit has come to exactly the right place. I wish you a very successful summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Frank Hannell, sharing more about Germany's position as well, and the partnership with Singapore, plus the updates on the global energy sector too. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome Ms. Suan Tan, who is the head of the IEA, Regional Cooperation Center International Energy Agency, for her keynote address. Ms. Tan, please.
Good morning, Minister Tan, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The world is facing an unprecedented global energy crisis, and today's conflict in the Middle East is likely to permanently reshape the global energy flows and alliances. Now, more than ever, events like this, including inaugural events like this, that bring together stakeholders to discuss and explore opportunities for diversifying the energy mix is important. So congratulations to WindEnergy Hamburg, Enterprise Singapore, the Singapore government, and other sponsors for organizing this very important event at a critical time. I will make 3 points in my presentation. Firstly, provide an overview of the current energy landscape in the region. Second, the importance of energy security and electricity security and the strong potential that wind power can play in that. And finally, I'll outline some of the key enablers to drive and scale wind power and other renewables in Southeast Asia. So let me start with the region's energy landscape. Southeast Asia is one of the fastest energy demand growth centers globally, second only to India. It's driven by robust economic and population growth, increasing industrialization and urbanization, air conditioning, and accelerating electrification of end users, as well as, of course, the increasing growth of data centers to drive AI. If we just focus on electricity demand, globally, electricity demand is set to grow at least 2.5 times total energy demand growth through to 2030. And Southeast Asia is electrifying even faster, with demand growth expected to be 50% above the global average. Now, most of the region's electricity demand continues to be met by fossil fuels, with coal supplying nearly 50% of the region's generation mix. And most countries, except for Indonesia, are becoming increasingly reliant on fossil fuel imports for electricity generation. And the current Middle East crisis has merely added to the challenge of meeting this demand growth in a secure, reliable, and affordable and sustainable way. Asia has been particularly hit by the crisis. About 80% of oil and oil products transiting the Strait of Hormuz in 2025 was destined for Asia, and nearly 90% of LNG via the Strait of Hormuz goes to Asia. China is the largest recipient for LNG by volume, but if we look in terms of the share of imports and consumption coming through the Straits, actually Singapore, as well as Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines in this region are also very reliant or have reliance on the Strait of Hormuz for their LNG imports. This brings me to my second point. For import-dependent countries like those in the region, energy security is also becoming a question of economic security and national security. And a golden rule of energy security is diversification. You need to diversify who you get your supply from, the trade routes in which that supply comes to you, and also, very importantly, diversify your fuel sources. There will be major changes to global, regional, and national energy systems as a result of the current crisis. Governments will increasingly focus on homegrown energy resources, including renewable energy. And this is where there is a real opportunity for Southeast Asia, which has abundant and diversified renewable resource potential, including wind, importantly, as the result of today's discussion, but also for solar, hydropower, biomass, and increasingly geothermal. Southeast Asia's combined technical potential for solar and wind, utility-scale solar PV, and onshore and offshore wind exceeds 20 terawatts. That's roughly 55 times the region's total current generation capacity. So even tapping a small fraction of this resource potential could diversify supply, reduce fossil fuel import dependence, and curb emissions. Currently, the share of wind power in Southeast Asia's annual power generation capacity additions was about 1% in 2024. This is projected to increase to 7% by 2035 and nearly 15% by 2050. Achieving this will depend on the ability of the region to leverage the excellent offshore wind potential we see in Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam, as well as onshore wind potential in Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand, and again Vietnam that's close to urban centers. In addition, the capabilities and innovations, as mentioned by Minister Tan and the various announcements he's made this morning, will help to drive and accelerate the growth and deployment of this wind power. There is a strong economic case for wind development. Over the past 10 years, global average prices for wind turbines have decreased by approximately 50%. If you couple this as well with a fall in cost of battery energy storage systems, the average global price in 2026 was at 1/3 the levels of 2020, and the fact that most variable renewable energy integration challenges in ASEAN or Southeast Asia can be addressed through straightforward modifications to existing assets or operational improvements, there really is a golden opportunity for wind to provide secure, reliable, and affordable power generation in this region. Finally, let me outline three of the key enablers to accelerate the deployment of wind and other renewable power in this region. Firstly, policy and planning coherence needs to be demonstrated in long-term targets, in power development plans, and frameworks for investment and permitting so that we can start to accelerate the building of the actual projects. Governments in the regions are proactively considering how to meet this demand growth through their national energy and power plans, and we've seen some excellent examples already. Singapore very early set a target to import 6 gigawatts, around 1/3 of energy demand, of low-carbon electricity by 2035, which sets a clear demand signal for the region. Thailand targets more than 9 gigawatts of wind power capacity by 2037 under its draft power development plan, along with launching pilot direct power purchase agreements and utility green tariffs. Vietnam's revised PDP 8 sets ambitious targets for offshore wind, 6 to 17 gigawatts by 2030 to 2035, and up to 139 gigawatts by 2050, representing 15% of Vietnam's power generation. And in the Philippines, the Presidential Executive Order 21 in 2023 established a unified permitting system enabling offshore wind development. And in 2025, the Department of Energy released the Offshore Wind Guidebook, again, to simplify permitting processes. Second is ensuring that we align the generation development with grid development so that the electrons can get to where it needs to flow. Now, grids, as experienced by many countries globally, is a critical bottleneck for electricity security. Globally, grid investment is lagging behind, with annual spending on grids amounting to about 40% of the investment in the generation assets. So without careful and coordinated planning to ensure that grid development keeps pace with evolving system needs, there is a risk of grid congestions, curtailment, and lengthy connection queues for new projects. And several countries, including, for example, the UK, are already experiencing some of that long connection times, which can affect investor confidence and the growth of renewables. Grid infrastructure also takes much longer to plan, permit, and complete compared to renewable projects. It's on average about 15 years versus about 1.5 to 2 years for renewable projects. And there are also supply chain challenges. Key components such as cables can take 2 to 3 years to procure depending on the complexity of the project, and this has already doubled in time, and it will continue to be a case particularly for long-distance cables such as HVDCs. Finally, cooperation remains important, not just in times of crisis. Initiatives like the ASEAN Power Grid, with a vision to connect the electricity networks of the ASEAN member states, is critical to enable countries in this region to connect low-cost generation with demand, to enhance system flexibility, and to share resources across this very broad region that is the ASEAN region. We have seen some incredibly strong political momentum and milestones for development of the ASEAN Power Grid, including the Lao PDR LTMS, so Lao PDR, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore integration project, the enhanced APG Memorandum of Understanding, which was executed last year by the ASEAN Ministers for Energy, as well as the APG Financing Initiative with the support of the World Bank and the ADB. Deeper collaboration between governments, finance sector, industry, and international organizations is needed now to translate this excellent political momentum into actual investment and implementation of the ASEAN Power Grid. The Singapore government has long been a champion for Southeast Asia's energy collaboration, and we look forward to even more momentum under Singapore's upcoming ASEAN chairmanship next year. In closing, for wind power and other renewables, the next decade is about delivery, it's about coordination, and it's about scale. The IEA stands ready to support this effort, together with many of you in this room, and I look forward to the discussion and to events like this, and glad to hear that it will continue next year as well, to make sure that we can find ways to deepen our collaboration and turn ambition into actions that can help shape a secure, affordable, and sustainable energy system for this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tan, for sharing those updates on the global, regional, and national level, and of course highlighting the critical role that Asia plays in shaping the future of wind energy as well. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have come to the official opening ceremony of our Recharge Wind Power Summit Asia Pacific, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg. So with a warm round of applause, if you could join me as we welcome our distinguished guests back on stage. Our guest of honor for this morning, Dr. Tan Ling, Minister in charge of Energy, Science and Technology and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Singapore. Dr. Tan, please. Also joining him on stage for the launch is Her Excellency Dr. Bettina Feng Hanel, Ambassador, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to Singapore. His Excellency Mr. Leif Trana, Ambassador, Royal Norwegian Embassy, Singapore. Ms. Suan Tan, head of the IEA Regional Cooperation Center, International Energy Agency. Mr. Lee Chuan Tek, Chairman, Enterprise Singapore. Mr. Wong Zeng Yi, Assistant Managing Director, Enterprise Singapore. Mr. Pranjal Bokotoki, Senior Director, Global Events Recharge, DN Media. Welcoming back Mr. Heiko Stutzinger, CEO Hamburg Messe und Kongress. As well as Mr. Simon Quick, President, Association of Singapore Marine and Offshore Energy Industries. Thank you all for joining us today. We invite you to have your mobile phones out. This is our official ceremony if you'd like to take some pictures. And now I'd like to invite everyone to please have your eyes on the screens before you for the official opening of our Recharge Wind Power Summit 2026 Asia Pacific, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg. We are going to have a video that counts us down from 10 to 1. And at 0, I would be inviting all our distinguished guests to please press that button. So everyone in place, I believe we're all set. Let's do this. Let's count down together when you are ready. Distinguished guests, please press that button. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, on the official launch of the Recharge Wind Power Summit Asia Pacific 2026, powered by WindEnergy Hamburg. I'd like to invite everyone to kindly remain where you are for a few more official photos. Now, of course, welcoming a few of our friends here to Singapore. Fantastic. And now to celebrate the launch, we'd like to invite everyone, distinguished guests, to please remain on stage and everyone to remain seated as we have a lion dance performance that's actually going to lead us outside to our ribbon cutting area led by our distinguished guests. So I believe our lions are also set. Whenever you're ready, take it away, guys. I'd now like to invite our distinguished guests to join us and follow the lions, please, as our lions will lead us to the ribbon cutting area right at the reception that we all entered by. Kindly remain seated for now, and we'll see you out there at the ribbon cutting area. Absolutely fantastic. An exciting time indeed. We had our light ceremony. And in just a few moments, I will be inviting everyone in the room to join us outside as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, inviting everyone in the room to please rise and join us outside, right at the reception area. We'll see you right there for the ribbon cutting.